Hello everyone and welcome to today's Dynamics 365 Tech Talk. Today's topic is Planning Optimization Updates Wave 1 2023, Dynamics 365 Supply Chain Management. My name is Tim and I will be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this session through Teams live events and the audio can be heard through your device speakers. This session is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. When you join this event, your name, email address, and/or phone number may be viewable by other session participants in the attendee list. By joining, you are agreeing to this experience. The recording will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within the coming weeks. If you have questions for presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to your questions throughout the event and in a live segment after the presentation. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Beatriz Nebot, Gracia, Product Manager, Planning Optimization, and Krupke, Senior Fast Track Solution Architect, and Anders Sorensen, Senior Software Engineer. Anne, over to you to get us started.
Thanks, Tim. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Thank you so much for joining us today to talk about our favorite topic, planning optimization. In today's session, we are going to start by recapping, and for anybody who doesn't know what planning optimization is, we'll talk about what it is, how to install it, how to get started. Then we'll talk about the current state of features that are supported in planning optimizations. We're going to touch on some updates that are a bit bigger that are in 10.0.32, which is goes GA this week. We'll cover some of the frequently asked questions that we get about planning optimization, go through a whole list of resources and recommendations, and then, as Tim mentioned, we'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. We also would ask that you help us gather data to understand better how we're doing to help you all with your migration process to planning optimization. So if you have not already, please take the time to fill out our survey at aka.ms/planning optimization adoption. It is not super long, so if you can take just a couple minutes to fill that out for us, your information would be greatly appreciated. And of course, we have a joke of the day or a riddle of the day. And the question today is, why did the farmer win an award? Feel free to put your answers in the chat and we will reveal the answer at the end of the session. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Beatriz for us to get started.
Thanks, Anne. So most of you may already know what planning optimization is, but let's quickly review it. Planning optimization is the planning engine for Dynamics. When supply chain management was introduced, it had as part of it planning functionality available. We call it classic master planning or built-in master planning. It ran completely inside the system, using only the memory available inside the installation of Dynamics 365. For companies with large amounts of data or complex configurations, planning often took many hours to complete, sometimes going over the nighttime window and getting into the office hours. In response to this issue, a couple of years ago, we started planning optimization, which is a planning service running on Microsoft hosted resources. Let's see its architecture. When a user initiates a master planning run from the Dynamics client, a signal is sent to the service to read the transactional data and planning setup from the environment through a connector. Then planning runs in memory, and the service will send the planned orders back to Dynamics to be reviewed and confirmed as usual. The logic used in planning optimization uses the same parameters as classic planning, with some minor differences which are noted in our documentation. This means It is the same master data and same setup as classic master planning. One thing that is important to note is that because planning optimization is a service, it is part of our microservice framework, and it is only available on Tier 2 or higher environments, so not available for developer environments. The service is supported in most geographies, and we're expecting to be in all SCM geographies by the end of the year. You can see the full list of supported geos in our Get Started page in the documentation. Additionally, because planning optimization is a service, it has its own release cadence that is separate from standard Dynamics releases. This means we are shipping features when they're ready instead of having to wait for version updates. The only exception to this is if a feature requires a change on a dynamic side, in that case, it will be dependent on a specific version. So now let's talk about the reasons why companies must migrate to the planning optimization service. Firstly, the main benefit of planning optimization is that it is much faster to run. We have seen customers with average times of several hours to be able to run in just a few minutes. This allows business processes to do full regenerative plans during business hours, getting quick results without impacting other business areas or slowing down the system. It also does not lock the tables on SQL, so other processes can also use them and be performed. This is especially useful for when needing to run many processes, especially during the night off hours. Secondly, we have been introducing new planning features in the planning optimization, and we will continue to do so. Some recent examples here include DDMRP and multi-sourcing. Going forward, new features will only be on planning optimization. Finally, because we have introduced the service, we have deprecated classic master planning, effective as of April of 2022. This means we are no longer investing in this area, and we will only provide support on blocking issues. For the no support policy, we are being strict on it since March this year. Let's clarify what not support means. Only blocking issues will be investigated or troubleshoot, and blocking issues are the type of no planned orders are generated, classic master planning continuously fails, or there was a regression in the functionality. No support is applicable for all customers, including those who are not yet supported in planning optimization. Also, if you have an exception to continue using the built-in deprecated master planning. And lastly, for on-premise customers, the support will be limited. So, what happens if you're preparing for a future implementation of supply chain management? The first thing you'll need to do is to check if your geo is supported for planning optimization. Remember, we are expecting to go on all geos where supply chain management is by the end of the year. Mooncake may come a bit later. If we don't support your geo, you can go live on classic master planning. If we do support it, next you'll have to follow the steps on Get Started on Master Planning page, which will guide you on installing and enabling the planning optimization service. You will then install planning optimization on all your environments, and you will configure the master planning module as your implementation methodology dictates. Testing planning optimization does not have to be separately. It is part of your implementation, So you will execute your unit tests, process tests, end-to-end tests for your entire set of requirements. And once those are passed, then you will be able to go live with planning optimization enabled. Are you live and currently using classic planning? Given that you do not have customizations, we'll talk about customizations later. Let's see. The first thing you'll want to do is to run the planning optimization fit analysis, which is a page in the master planning module which checks if you're using any functionality that is not yet supported in planning optimization. Next, we highly recommend that you review the documentation to understand the few changes between classic planning and planning optimization, like the safety stock that we see is the one that most customers are affected by. Once you're ready to test planning optimization, just follow the linked instructions on installing the LCS add-in on your testing environment and switch the planning optimization parameter on. It's that simple. At that point, what's left is testing. Typically, we expect you to run classic planning, export the results, run planning optimization, export as well the results, and do a comparison between the outputs, the planned orders, to verify everything looks okay. In general, it's the sum of quantities that would match. There's some expected differences, as I just mentioned. We would also recommend that you test other planning adjacent processes, such as sales order entry and production scheduling, just to verify that all your processes work as required. Once you complete testing, you are ready to go in your production environment. All in all, the most amount of time is in testing. It is a very simple effort to actually enable the service. In our experience, distribution customers have a very quick migration. And for manufacturing, it may take you more time, as you probably have more scenarios to check. With this, back to Anne to see the current state of features.
Thanks, Beatriz. Originally, when we introduced planning optimization, it included a limited set of features, and since then we've continued to add features to support more planning scenarios. Distribution scenarios, i.e. planning purchases and planning transfers, was our first scenario, which has been generally supported since 2021. Discrete manufacturing is generally supported through the features that are being added in Wave 1, 2023, with a couple of the more advanced features that are planned to be added later. And as of version 10.0.33, we have general support as well for process manufacturing scenarios with a couple of features such as planning items and item substitution, which will be added later. You can stay up to date with what features have been added by referring to the release history document that's linked here, and we will share as well after the presentation. To double click on the features that we've recently released within the general scenarios we just showed, here's a summary of the features that we added in 2022 and now so far in 2023. This is more for your reference if there's a particular feature that you're waiting for or have been waiting for. And of course, you can always refer to the release documentation for the most up-to-date record. You can see that in the past year or so, we've shipped a lot of features around supporting manufacturing scenarios. So if you're a manufacturer, it's definitely time to check again to see if you're now supported. By October this year, we expect that the vast majority of customers are supported on planning optimization. So if you haven't been planning your migration, now's the time to do so. If you haven't had a chance yet to check out the release notes for Wave 1 2023, you can see here the features which we have slated for this wave, some of which have already been released. In particular, what we're going to focus on today are these two first additions, the new exception process and the new feature that allows you to run planning optimization on a legal entity by legal entity basis. In terms of customizations, which Beatriz mentioned earlier, because planning optimization is a service where we take the data out of SCM and do the planning run on the Microsoft resources and then send planned orders back to SCM. This means, due to the architecture, it's not possible to customize any input to planning optimization. For example, if there are particular sales orders that you don't want to be included in the planning run. And it is also not possible to have any custom logic inside the planning service itself, because that, again, is the Microsoft hosted service. This is an intentional decision that customizations are not allowed in the service, and it's not something that's going to be supported in the future. In most cases, customizations to planning logic were some of the reasons that customers experienced big performance issues in planning in the past. With planning optimization, however, it is possible to run custom logic after planning has run. We have two extensibility points for that, both for when planning has completed successfully or when it has warnings or errors. So if you have customizations in classic master planning today, your options are to move them to the extensibility points as a post-processing job, to remove the customization and adapt to standard, or you can also take the design or the idea and submit an idea on the portal, and it could potentially be uptaken as part of the standard planning service. So those are the options for customizations with planning optimization. After all of these features that we've released and talked about what's coming, there are still a couple of gaps in planning optimization that we are not currently planning to support at the moment. The first feature is catch weight items. And when planning optimization runs, they are considered as regular products. So what that means is we're not considering catch weight values. We're just looking at the inventory unit values when we generate planned orders. Lean manufacturing is not supported in planning optimization. So if you have items with a planned order type of Kanban, no planned Kanbans will be generated by planning optimization. These are features that haven't been prioritized because they haven't had as high demand, but if you need either of these, please let us know through your Microsoft support channels or by filling out the survey that we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. And the other topic to talk about is instant CTP. We have support for CTP and planning optimization, but it is a new process where you wait for the next full run of the plan to have the confirmed CTP dates calculated. You can run the dynamic master plan in a batch recurrently, and the sales order lines will give you an indication for when the dates are ready to review. However, we know for certain scenarios, like when the seller is on the phone and needs to give a date to a customer right away, that this periodic CTP is not going to be sufficient. So for that case, or if you have other requirements that need instant CTP, there is an idea on the ideas portal that we would encourage you to vote for, and we'll have Tim put that link in the chat. If you need any of the features mentioned on this slide to be able to migrate to planning optimization, then you can continue to use the deprecated master planning engine until they're supported. Now I'll hand it back to Beatriz to talk about some of the updates in 10.0.32.
With 10.0.32, the first feature we have added is the ability to opt out of planning optimization for certain legal entities. For organizations that are currently live on Classic Master Planning, this allows the different companies in your environment to migrate at their own timeline. If you're in the process of rolling out additional phases, then you can have the new rollouts use planning optimization as part of their implementation and let the live entities migrate separately. In the planning optimization parameters page, you will find the new tab Company Information, where you can exclude the specific company from using planning optimization by setting this parameter to yes. Now, we will talk about the other feature we have added, our new exception process. If you are on-prem, the exception process will not apply or be shown. For all cloud environments, we will show you what this new process looks like for the three main scenarios. If your environment does not support planning optimization, like developer environments, if you're currently implementing Dynamics, or if you're currently live and running Classic Planning. If you run master planning on environments which are not supported for planning optimization. Tier 1, developer environments. When the version is 32 or higher, when a user runs master planning, manually, it will not be triggered when running Classic Planning as a batch job. Then a message will appear informing the user that they are running the deprecated master planning tool, but planning optimization is not supported. The link will contain how to access to supported environments, which is the one we're showing here at the bottom of the slide. And this is to bring awareness of planning optimization, and specifically for partners and ISVs. You can get a tier 2 environment that supports planning optimization for demos testing for a discounted price. Info is on the link. Now we will walk through the new process for companies that are implementing Dynamics 365. So by default, the planning services are disabled in new environments. So in order to use planning, an admin consultant setting up the system will go to master plan parameters to enable planning processes. They will receive a pop-up to notify them that they need to install the planning optimization add-in before they enable planning processes. They will follow the link to get started, install planning optimization, and then come back and turn on planning processes. For live companies, the scenario is going to have a bit more variation. When a user runs master planning in a supported Dynamics environment, if planning optimization is enabled, then nothing will happen. If planning optimization is not enabled, then there will be one of the three scenarios. Either the company, notice the company, not the whole customer, not the environment, the company specifically has an active exception. The company is not supported on planning optimization or is supported. So if the company has an exception, the exception is for the environment, there will be no message at that time. If the fit analysis shows the company is not supported, they will receive a message about planning optimization for awareness. If the company is supported, then the user will receive a message that they need to migrate to planning optimization and will have the opportunity to request for an exception. That basically gives more time. So let's see here the case where you don't have customizations. You're asked to require it, and then you can request 3 or 6 months. And this is what grants the exception in the background and then allows you to continue doing master planning. Once those 3-6 months have passed, you will see this message again. If you do have customizations, then when you select that you do have customizations, it prompts you that action is required, so you consider what to do about those. Once this happens, then we will grant an exception in the background as well for a couple of months, so you will not see this message again, but we expect you to take action on those customizations. With this, let's see some of the common questions about planning optimization. Back to Anne.
All right. In no particular order, we've collected a list of the questions that we get asked the most frequently, and we're going to go through them and answer them here. Our first question is, does it cost us anything additional to use planning optimization? And the answer to this is no. Planning optimization is included in the base SCM licensing. There is no additional cost to migrating to planning optimization from a licensing perspective. The next common question is, when will classic master planning be removed from Dynamics? And the answer to this is there is no current timeline to remove classic master planning. If and when it is going to be removed, the announcement of removal will occur 12 to 18 months ahead of the removal date so that everybody can migrate with plenty of time. But again, there is no plan at the moment to remove classic master planning from the system. Another common question we get is, what impact does migrating to planning optimization have for current planning users? And from a user interface perspective, users still work in the same planning module. They'll use the same forms and buttons to run planning and review and firm planned orders. The visible difference for users is if they run master planning manually, instead of saying running master planning, the message says running planning optimization. It is important to know, however, if you use CTP, for example, that process is slightly different in terms of when the date is calculated, but from a general user interface perspective, there is no difference to what the user experiences. The next question is, can I run planning optimization on a government community cloud or GCC environment? This is now supported because GCC has been enabled for the LCS microservices framework. So planning optimization and the other LCS add-ins are supported on GCC environments now. We covered this one already, but just a reminder, if you want to know whether you can run planning optimization on a tier 1 environment, the answer is no as of right now, because it runs via an LCS add-in, which is only possible to install on tier 2 or higher environments. Although the product team is looking into being able to add support for tier 1 environments in the future. If a partner or ISV wants to demo or test planning optimization, how do they do that? And the answer for that is that we have a special license for tier 2 environments that are for demo purposes for a partner or ISV. And you can find the information about this environment, which is discounted compared to a normal tier 2, at the link in here. If you're running classic master planning in a batch job, if I leave it alone and migrate to planning optimization, will it work? And the answer is you will need to set up a new batch job for running planning optimization instead of your classic master planning batch job. So while the user interface clicking the button will call planning optimization immediately, if you have recurrent batch jobs running, you need to update those to run planning optimization. The next FAQ is, what data center does planning optimization run on? And the answer is that planning optimization will run on the same data center as your Dynamics 365 SCM environment. How can I stay up to date on which features are supported in planning optimization? So the best place to go to understand what features are supported is the release documentation, which is linked here and is available on the Microsoft Docs site. From 10.0.32 onwards, the app will also notify you if there are any features you missed and now are supported. And the product team also posts updates in the Yammer forum, which Beatriz will talk about in a few minutes. So if you want to stay up to date on what's happening in previews and things like that, that is another place you can go. What will be my performance when I move to planning optimization? So the answer to that is there's no specific rule about how much your performance will improve if you migrate to planning optimization. What we've seen in general is that larger data sets or companies that have had worse performance with classic master planning will see the biggest difference. And the best way to find out what your performance will be is to test planning optimization. Which leads to the next question. If I enable planning optimization so I can test it, does that mean I'm locked into using it? And the answer to this is no. You can always disable planning optimization for the entire environment or for a specific company if you need to. So installing the add-in to run testing does not lock you in to using planning optimization, but it will let you understand what your performance will be and whether it's possible for you to migrate to planning optimization. And that's it for our FAQs. So I'm going to hand it back to Beatriz to talk about resources.
So here we've pulled a complete list of resources, so you'll have it later when we share the slides on the page. For planning optimization, you'll see that the whole documentation is updated to now reflect planning optimization. Whenever we talk about planning, it's planning optimization we are talking about, and it's everything under that. You'll find the Get Started page, parameters not used, the release process and history, and many others. You'll also find at the bottom a section about the deprecated built-in planning. That one contains what is applicable only to the classic deprecated planning, as well the differences, the fit analysis to check if you can move, and the migration and new exception process that we just talked about today. For troubleshooting planning optimization, we have also started creating a new page where we will also add more and more in the future. And it has things like data export timeout, and what can you do about those. An error that you may see if you are testing planning optimization is something as what is shown in the picture here. So you see an error occurred and product team is investigating the problem. So when you see this, what actually happens is that an incident is automatically created and it goes to product group. So we are on it. If you would like to follow up in the issue, you can always create a support ticket and then support will inform you on our progress there. And finally, we have as groups, the Yammer group, as I mentioned, where like there's many partners, customers you can also be a part of if you're not there yet. As asking questions, sharing experiences, we also post whenever we have new releases or something we think it's relevant for everybody to know. And for being part of it, there's a specific process to sign up for the Yammer group. If you are not there, don't want to be part of it, you can always be part of the supply chain management forum. It's open, it's the same concept. People post questions, other people answer. We are also there from product team in both the Yammer group and the supply chain management forum. And also if you search online, you may find many answers to your questions there as well. So takeaways we hope you're getting from today. Planning optimization is the planning engine for Dynamics. Classic master planning, if you're there, it's deprecated. So we are no longer supporting it. We have no plans to remove it at the moment. And if you're there, you have to move to planning optimization. So start preparing for that move. You can do it one company at a time from .32 that we are releasing this ability to opt out for certain companies. If you have a new go live, you must use planning optimization. And if you have new phases, the same. New companies, go live on planning optimization. So with this, again, we want to ask you, please answer the question that was there so we know how you're doing on the planning optimization. And as well, if you have any suggestions on how can we help you with this move. Then getting back to the riddle of today, why did the farmer win an award?
I don't know, Beatriz, why did the farmer win an award?
Because he was outstanding in his field.
I think we had a couple people guess that one right in the chat, so good job, whoever guessed it.
So this was for the presentation. Anders has been answering many of your questions on the chat. Is there some Anders that we should answer now you've not been able to answer?
Yeah, there have been quite a few questions online. So I think that we can read through some of them. One of them is, can you confirm safety stock pegging is now supported?
So safety stock, it's something that is affecting many of you, and it works differently in classic planning and in planning optimization. In classic planning, safety stock is a demand. We treat it as any other demand. And we even have these options of when do you want to fulfill this demand? There's today plus lead time and a couple other options. In planning optimization, we don't have the same concept of safety stock. We consider safety stock as a running calculation. So we always want to ensure that your stock level is above the safety stock you have set. This means there's not a specific demand for safety stock. We will always prioritize actual demand, sales orders, forecasts, etc., over safety stock. We will still create planned orders to make sure you're always on top of that level, so you don't go below at all levels. But then that order that we created to make sure you are on top of that level of safety stock that accumulated, then we will use for other orders if needed. We have heard from many of you that sometimes it was hard to see that a planned order was created and you could not see it was for safety stock. In the case it was and there was nothing else. We are going to soon introduce that visibility over when something is for safety stock. So it will not be exactly the same pegging as before, in the sense of it is a demand, it has its specific supply, but we do supply it, we do keep that level, and we'll introduce the fact that you can see it as a pegging in the net requirements form.
All right. Let's go to one of the next questions. Are there any plans to fully support with planning optimization the interactive CAP confirmed sales order dates that is currently provided with classic MRP?
We don't have at the moment it in the roadmap, like short term nor longer term. For this, it's not that long ago that we released the new CTP process. So please check it out, see how it works if you're using CTP, see if it works for you. If it doesn't, let us know. What's your scenario? How do you use it? And then we will consider. At the moment, we don't have it in the plans.
And one more question. When will intercompany master planning be supported?
You can, as of now, run intercompany when you have connections between companies and one supplies another one. That is already supported as of now. There is a form that is called intercompany master planning, where you can create these groups specifying the order in which certain companies run. That form is not supported with planning optimization, but you can set up exactly the same thing, that sequence of companies and the batch jobs yourself manually. So as a batch job, you set up that sequence so they can run in that order. It's only the form itself that is not supported.
Okay. Then we have a question about how to go live. So the question is, wouldn't it be more convenient to go live with classic master planning in the new company and then switch to planning optimization in all companies together?
It depends on what you prefer. The experience from our customers, we have seen that for many, especially for the ones that are in many different legal entities, mostly different time zones, then it's easier to switch one company at a time. For example, if you have some that are distribution and some that are manufacturing, we have seen that this distribution can move first, and then it may take you longer time to move for the manufacturing ones, but then it's like a divided effort in the end, and the distribution ones can already benefit from running planning during the day. Many times they can run during lunchtime, so the orders they have received in the morning, they can ship them right away. So you don't need to wait until all your companies move, which may be a big effort. But that is, again, up to what you would prefer.
I would also add, Beatriz, that if you have new companies that are coming live on Dynamics, having them go live with planning optimization means they'll never know the difference, right? So you don't have to go through the post go live regression testing in all of the companies. So it's much simpler if you just go live on the service and never have to migrate after go live.
All right. Next set of questions is regarding the batch functionality. So there's a few questions. This when will co-products and planning items be fully supported, both from a formula and batch order standpoint? And then a related question is, does it support formula yield?
Formula support co-and by products. It's coming all under 10.0.33 release. And planning items and item substitution will come a bit later. On yield, I would have to double check, but in any case, it is on the release plans page that we shared before.
Okay. We have one questions about about performance. If it's possible to add more Azure resources to increase the add-in performance. So I think this speaks to if they can, like in Classic, where you can control performance by adding helpers and these kinds. I think I can answer that question. So basically, all the resource and performance considerations are in planning optimization are basically managed by Microsoft. So it's not possible to, like it was in Classic, to add helpers or add more AOSs, since it's running as a service from our side. Anything to add to that, Beatriz?
No, that's perfect, Anders. And in general, performance is not a concern in planning optimization so far for customers. And if there is, like, we work with you through support to help you as well.
And then
we are managing those resources, so that's also something you don't need to worry about. Yeah, go ahead, Anders.
Was a question about what about rescheduling a production order? I assume that means a non-planned production order.
So if you're using finite materials, it was a couple of releases ago that we also released the support for finite materials, which is in the end checking by planning that those materials are there. So it is supported from a couple of releases ago.
And there's also a question on the same, like with what about explosion functionality? If it's not supported, then which values are offered by planning optimization to manufacturing companies?
Explosion is coming as well in 10.0.32. Preview from 31. So if you are on 31 or want to try it out on 31, just write to us and then we can enable it for you.
And the next question is about, will it be possible to exclude specific sales order lines from the planning service?
It will not be possible because it's a service. It is not possible to modify anything that goes into the service, any input, as that example, sales orders, demand forecast lines, etc., or in the logic itself. So anything like that, you would need to ask on the ideas portal, and if it's generic, gets voted, we will consider adding it to standard.
Perhaps we should also mention about that you can use the product filter if there's specific products you don't want to include per plan, which is different from classic planning.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And if there's some products that you don't want to include, same as classic, you can still use the product lifecycle and then set that it should not be planned.
Great. Next question is, what are the plans to support extensible dimensions by planning optimization?
We know this is a request from many of you, and we are considering it. We cannot say for sure at the moment.
Next question is it possible to run both MRP engines, Classic Master Plan and Planning Optimization Service, to check and validate results?
So for a certain company, you run one or the other. When you want to compare the results, what you can do is set that you run planning optimization, you create a plan and then export the results, and then switch back to using Classic, and either you can run the same plan or create a copy of the plan with another name that has exactly the same parameters and setup, and then run it with Classic. And then that way you can also export the results again and then compare them in Excel.
Next question is, we don't want to auto-firm any orders during CTP calculation, only doing a full master planning calculation. Will this scenario be supported with planning optimization?
So for the new CTP process, what actually calculates the CTP dates is when you run the dynamic master plan. If you specify that you always want auto-firming once you run that dynamic master plan, that can be done. And then you can use a different plan, maybe with the same setup for your daily activities. And then when that one runs, you don't auto-firm.
Okay. See the questions coming in.
Can we answer this one? What result would we expect if there's a feature that's not yet supported? For example, scheduling with explosion if you're on 10.0.30. Will planning error out, or will it just run without the explosion results?
When you try running explosion, you will see either that it's disabled or an error message. I cannot recall. And once you're in the right release, then you will see that what it actually does is it's running a filtered run for the specific item, the line that you're selecting.
But in general, that's why we recommend you run the fit analysis prior to enabling planning optimization, so that if you aren't fully supported, it's clear before you try to run planning on it.
Exactly.
The next question could be, is the concept of static and dynamic plans still in effect since there's no copy to dynamic feature?
So it's not valid anymore in that sense, because we are not copying, we are not specifying a static plan and then a dynamic plan and the table behind it. If you're familiar in Venlog TTS, that table is not used anymore. So the concept itself, is not used. It's not still in effect. If your company, your business is used to those concepts, you can still, create as many plans as you want and use one as a static, another one as dynamic, one that you run more often, the other one that you don't. The only thing to take into account is that for CTP, we do use the dynamic plan. So if you want to get the CTP dates, you will need to run the plan that you have specified as dynamic plan.
All right, next question is there any plan for incorporating delayed sales orders demand as a part of forecast reduction using transactions dynamic period?
Delayed sales orders demand. Not sure how to understand the question. We do have forecast reduction using transactions, dynamic period, as well as other reductions. I'm not sure what it means by incorporating delayed sales orders into the reduction. The sales orders are reducing into the specific periods. Not sure what it means by delayed.
No, we should probably get that one clarified.
The sales order is past due, so the requirement date is in the past.
It would affect on the specific period where that date is. If it's on the past, it will not affect for today's period, let's say. In general as well, we don't have any calculations in the past for planning optimization.
The next question comes is about does master planning optimization calculate productions with limited, so finite capacity differently than classic master planning?
Like from a functional perspective, it is the same. From a technical perspective, like we do have some differences in how we do it.
But the outcome should be the same.
Yes.
The safety stock calculation journals are supported with planning optimization.
Yes, that is not affected by planning optimization. It is simply the form that helps you set up what those values are, and those values go to the setup. So from planning optimization perspective, we just take that setup and then calculate with it.
Then there's a technical question about Inven Sumlog TTS that I replied a few of them for private, but we can take it in public here. So the question is, if there is no log TTS, so Inven Sumlog TTS, which is basically the table right now that is governing, that is sort of controlling which transactions have happened since I last updated my dynamic plan. Then it says here, if there are no log TTS, how does this affect the net requirement or requirement profiles? So since there's no really, the Inven Sumlog TTS was before used for controlling the dynamic plan, and as soon as you would open the any sort of explosion form or any net requirements form, we would apply any inventory transaction that have happened. We would apply those things. So they will be immediately visible once you open the net requirements form. With planning optimization, it's a little bit different because it requires a planning run for us to see any of the transactions. So this means that if you just create a sales order and you open the net requirements, you will not see that sales order showing up in the net requirements. You will have to run planning to get all of this updated. So in order to get the data into the form from the sales line or any sort of inventory transaction, we would have to do a planning run. In the classic planning, it would basically just recognize that you had inventory transaction and then just show it, but without running any sort of coverage logic on it.
So we are 1 minute to finishing. So I guess that was the last question. And now we are finishing the event. Back to Tim.
Thank you, Beatriz. I've posted a link to a short survey in the Q&A panel. We'd love to hear your feedback on today's session and hear what you'd like to see in future events. Thank you for your participation. As a reminder, the recording of today's session will be made available on the TechTalk's Community Dynamics page within the coming weeks. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters today and to you, our audience, for joining us. We hope you have a great rest of the day ahead.